I'm going to do some work on the bike today. I think I have it figured out. That's all it is I think. But, you know, a lot of you commented, you know, the float levels. Well, you saw I put that clear hose on and I went and checked all 4 float bowls. And the fuel level is right up to where this lip is on the float bowls. It's supposed to be 22 millimeters. But as long as it's below the parting surface, it's generally okay, and preferable from what I see in everything online is right here. And that's exactly where all 4 float bowls are. And none of them drip out the tubes, so they're not stuck needles or anything. These have overflows on the floats, so if they overfill, they drip out hoses onto the ground. None of them drip out, and being that the floats are good. And the needles and seats and floats on the original carbs were so cruddy I couldn't reuse them. I had to use the new stuff there. The main jets were the same size. These are the ones that came in the kits are 100s, and the originals I have these little gauge things, and they're like numbered drill bits, and they're exactly the same size. So the main jets I don't think are the issue either. The metering rods, you see I changed, and going up and down a little bit did change the performance a little bit, but I'm going to put them back to where they originally were, because I'll show you what I found. I was out doing yard work. Oh, and the points condenser, new points condenser made no difference. With the original ones and the new ones, it runs exactly the same. I'll show you what I think it is. Let me get the original parts I'm going to put back in the carburetor out, and I'll kind of talk about it, and I'll show you. I was out working in the yard thinking about what it could be, and I'd left the bike out because I thought I might be running it again, which I did, and that pretty much all confirmed what I was kind of thinking. Let me show you. These are the original metering rods and main jets out of the carburetor. I didn't put these back in because the rubber O-rings, I didn't have new ones to put on, so I just put the new jets in, which already had new O-rings. This one, the O-ring broke when I took it out, and I don't have any O-rings the right size. They're probably a metric O-ring. So anyway, I did check the internal size of the jet and found that they're exactly the same as the new ones. The new ones are 100s, which the shop manual says they should be, and these ones I can't read a number on them anywhere. I didn't see a legible number, but they measure the same as the 100s that are on the bike now. These are the metering tubes. These were massively plugged up, corroded. So I cleaned them up, and I'm going to put them back in the carburetor. And this is, see that how it has a little lip T like right here? That seats against the bottom of that opening in the carburetor. There's a tube, this tube goes in, and this part up here protrudes into the carburetor. And then the metering rod, one of these, which you saw me change the clip length, these go down into that, in and out as you give the engine the gas and whatnot, to change the fuel flow coming out of that orifice there, which gets its fuel through those holes and through there, which all comes through the main jet. What I found was, while I was gardening, I was thinking I'm going to shove my inspection camera through the airbox into the carburetor throat while the engine's running, and see if I can see something wrong, and I clearly could. So gas is leaking between here and the carb body, and was literally spraying out a little bit. And when I gave it the throttle, like up to, you know, 4 grand or so, it was just shooting out of there. And that RPM is enough to where it can handle that extra gas, but at idle, what's coming out of these is making it run too rich. So I got I'm gonna take the ones from the kit, which don't seal for diddly, and I'll put these ones back in, which requires pretty much all totally disassembling the carburetor. But you saw I was able to get the top off and get the slide out, so you can put your finger and push this out. And then the float bowls have to come off because the main jet has to come out, because that's the only way these will come out of the carburetor. So I'm going to totally disassemble the carburetors on the bike, because the carburetors are such a nightmare to get off the bike. Now I went to video that with this, but the problem was that I didn't realize that I must have taken the memory card out the last time I used it to upload to YouTube. So I didn't record anything because there was no memory card in it. It has a memory card in it now, and I would take the bike out and start it and show you, other than it's cold and raining out right now, and I'm not taking the bike out in the rain to start it up. It's just, I'm just not doing it in the cold and rain. It's kind of difficult getting it, you know, it's a heavy bike to get it in and out that back door, and the handlebars are wider than the door opening with the mirrors, so you got to kind of jockey it through. And so I'll just show you with the inspection camera in the carburetor, and then once I get it running, I'll shove the inspection camera in there if it's still acting up. Hopefully it doesn't, but let me just show you with the inspection camera what I'm talking about. I'll just video it. Okay, there you're looking, that was a choke butterfly right there that you're looking at. But let me see if I can get this back in here. I had it in there pretty good yesterday while it was running. Let me bend this a little bit. Whoops, that's the tube that, there. See where it comes through the carburetor there? Let me see if I can set this somehow to... Anyway, that comes through the carburetor right there. Now you can see where that... Sorry, I'm moving the camera. Where that thing comes in. And see how when you open the throttle, how it moves that metering rod out and close it. But anyway, it was spraying gas around that. It's only supposed to come out where that metering rod goes in, but it was coming out around that brass thing right there between that and the body. Clearly could see it coming out there. And all 4 carburetors. So I think that is the issue as to why it's running rich. So I'm going to change these new ones. Just must not be the quality of the old one. Well, let me get to this. It's going to be probably a couple hour back braking process here. I'm not going to take the floats or needles or seats out, but I am going to have to take, I'm just going to take them all 4 apart all at once, because it's easier to get to the mains and stuff. Well, like to get this float bowl off back here, it's easier to have this float bowl off. So I'm going to take all 4 float bowls off, all 4 tops, get all these metering rods changed, push those things out, push the new one or the original ones back in, put everything back together, and if it stops raining, take it out and see how it runs. I'm going to assembly line disassemble these. I'm just going to take everything off, like all these tops off, then all the things out of the bores, and then all the floats I got to drain and remove the bowls, and I think that'll be the easiest way. Just, I got a little pan here. I'm going to set all the parts in, so hopefully I don't lose anything, especially those little bits for the ball sockets for the for those, you know, where this thing pushes in here. There's like little ball sockets. But anyway, let me get all this stuff off. I made a decision to just do these carburetors and I'll do the other ones. It saves moving back and forth and save on my back a little bit here. Yeah, this is kind of back breaking when you get into these. But if you look down in there, you can see that jet now, right? I think you can see it. Right dead center bottom of bore. Yeah, it shows up in there, it looks like. Anyway, that's where it's leaking gas around, seeping around that thing where it goes in. So I think that that is the issue. All right, let me drain the float bowls and get them off, and I'll push them out, push the new ones in, and I got to reset, move the clips on those again. And these have like little, you got to be really careful with these. So to put them back on, you got to take this completely off. And then there's two little parts in there for that ball socket. This is the first one that goes in, and this is rounded on both ends. They're both ball sockets, so that really doesn't make a big difference. And this is spring loaded, as you can, oops, trying to hold the camera, but anyway, you just got to kind of lift that a little bit as you push the, keep this from coming up, and lift this, and then the ball goes on. And then this other bit, one end's dished and the other end's pointed. The dished end goes in first, and then this little nut here is the end the pointed end goes in, like so. And then when you tighten that down, it holds the ball. That's why you got to loosen these a turn or so to pop them off, so you don't oops, this goes on that way. But anyway, I'm gonna dump this one out so I don't lose them when I take it over to the toolbox, change the metering rod. But anyway, I'm gonna get, this is the metering rod, that's the metering jet down in there, that part there. So that's the proper terminology according to the service manual. So anyway, let me set these back down here and get the float bowls drained and off. I really had to put a plug in the bottom of their float bowls so you can drain them out. When I store my bikes, I always drain the float bowls, and I drain the fuel petcock, the sediment bowl on the fuel petcock. So that way and I drain the petcock first, so when I take drain the float bowls, the fuel hose is drained too. And that way the fuel system itself doesn't have gas in it all winter to come up. Yeah, the tank has gas in it, but generally, you know, the problem is when the gas evaporates out and leaves the residue from the, you know, from the gas, that's what cruds things up. So all right, that float bowl's drained. Let me put the drain back in just so I don't misplace it. And these drains have little holes in them, so you don't need to take them all the way out. You can just loosen them. But that was just easier to take out. So there's one. I'm going to get this bowl, the other bowl drained, and then I'm going to then we're going to pull the bowls. Yeah, this was pretty easy to do. It's not that bad. A little more messy than anything, but at least that's an easy way to drain the bowls. I'm changing these back to where they were clipped when I took the bike apart. I assume the bike was probably running pretty good before it was parked, so that's why I'm doing that. And yeah, the two inner pipes were purple. That could have been because, you know, the fender was blocking air to cool the pipes, or it could have been because of the ignition, because the coil or the spark plug wire on the #1 cylinder was arcing against the head, and occasionally, so it was killing 1 and 4. So 2 and 3 were doing, you know, more work than 1 and 4, so because of that. And they all should be doing the same work, as the carbs are all synchronized, all ignition timing, everything's set spot on, so it shouldn't have that issue anymore. All right, I got the one float bowl off, and I got the main jet out. All it holds that main jet in is that spring thing that pushes on the bottom of the float bowl, and just holds that up into the opening. So I'll set that in there, and then the metering rod should just push out. Yeah, push down. Let me get a little something to push it out. Whoops. Get that thing back out of the way. I need my little wire to pull it out. There we go. There's the culprit. I think it's not sealing around that lip edge right there, I think. So anyway, let me get the other one out, and we'll put the new ones in and do all 4 carburetors. Hopefully that solves the issue. The original ones are back in now on these 2 carburetors, hoping that solves the issue. They seem to seat in there a little tighter than the ones that from the rebuild kit, so hopefully that solves the performance issue, I'm hoping. This side's all back together and done. I didn't bend the tabs over. I'm going to ride the bike first. I may, in case if I have to actually readjust those metering rods, they're set back to where they originally were, and all the floats and everything are back on. All right, let me do the other side. I got to drain the floats and get them all apart. We'll do the other side. I'm not going to video the other side. You already kind of saw what I'm doing on this side. These 2 carburetors are disassembled down to where I was able to get these out. Hopefully this is these just the one dropped right out. This side was flooding worse than the other side, and actually I could see more gas leaking around these 2 than the other 2. The carburetor number 2 was the one that leaked the least. Yeah. So let me get the old ones back in, and if it stops raining, we'll take it out and crank it up and see how it runs. And there we go. The original metering jets are back in the carburetors. All right, let me get this thing back together, and hopefully that takes care of the issue. Carbs are all together. Everything's changed. Throttle works good. Wanted to make sure nothing stuck or whatever. Anyway, I think I'm gonna set the idle mixture screws at 1 turn out. That's factory spec, and we'll go from there. It said half plus or minus, or 1 turn plus or minus 1/8 in the shop manual. So half, 1, and then we'll adjust them accordingly once after I ride it on the road a bit. It's still raining out, so I'm going to go have lunch, and hopefully after lunch it stops. It's not supposed to be an all-day rain, and then we can take it out on the patio and start it. And generally I'll know right away if it's flooding or not. So if it's not, we'll once the roads dry up, we'll go for a ride out on the road. Let's see, half, 1, there we go. All right, so everything's set. Got to put the fuel tank back on, obviously, and then wait for it to stop raining. So I'm going to go have lunch. Well, we got it all back together. Let's take it out. It stopped raining. Finish lunch. It's done raining. The roads are still pretty wet, though, so I'm not going to go out and ride it until the roads dry up. And it is a little cold out, so keep that in mind, too. But I think we can take it out on the patio and crank it up and just see how it runs statically. I think it, fingers crossed, hopefully it runs okay. center two cylinders are completely dead. So I think we'll see what that is with the issue with that. Might be wiring, might have knocked something loose. Other than that, it's not flooding, it's not running rich. All right, we'll click that switch. Yeah, maybe there's a multitude of problems, and that's why it was running bad. Yeah, it's definitely the middle two cylinders aren't hitting all the time. So let me take it in the garage. I think we got the carburetor issue straightened out. Let me see if we can straighten out the ignition issue. Maybe the plugs are just fouled from it running so rich, but both the 2 and 3 cylinder are not sparking at all. The coil wire, that plug is off the coil, and then I can touch it to the points here, and you can see there's absolutely no resistance in that wire. And I'm going to wiggle it around. I can't hold the camera and wiggle harnesses at the same time, but let me see if I can figure out a way to put this to where it stays here. Okay, as you can see, I removed the wire from the points. We still show a good connection. Now if it shows a ground, which it's showing it open now, which it should, so yeah, it was just because the points were connected. Whoops, there. So that wire is good. Let me connect it up and wiggle it around. Again, I got to set the camera around to do this. Let me put the yellow wire back on. We'll pull the blue off. I've even put it to the ground and checked to see if there was and wiggled the wires while I was hooked to the ground too, along with wiggling them while I was hooked to this. So everything's good with that going to the coil. Let me try the blue one now. Again, everything's good. That's touching it. Whoops, keep dropping it off. All right, there. Now I'm touching it. And I wiggled everything around while I was connected, and then I put it to the ground there and wiggled everything around while it was connected, and it stayed like that when it was connected like this, and it stayed like that when it was over here to the ground, showing that it's not shorted to ground. All right, now that eliminates the wire from the points to the coils, so now I got to check the power supply to the coils from the ignition. So I might take that cover off where the electrical is over on the other side, and you know, maybe the resistor, I think this has a resistor wire, maybe it's bad, and you know, jiggling around. I don't know if any of you have had like early 70s Fords, the resistor wire was a problem with them, and they would fatigue, and you'd go down the road and you'd hit bumps and the engine would cut out and the muffler would fill with gas and the ignition would kick back on, and it would backfire and about blow the mufflers apart. And I've seen a number of Fords doing that, and the owners just give up on trying to get them running right when all it is a bad resistor wire. You just put a new wire from the ignition switch to the coil, and if it needs a resistor, put a ballast like a Chrysler ballast resistor, and it would take care of the problem. That was a Ford thing for a few years. I think like maybe 69, 70, 71, 72. I think 73 they went to electronic ignition, and that eliminated that wire. But the late, I think 69 was the first year that had that issue. It was just a poor quality wire, and it would fatigue. All right, let me get moving here and figure out why we're randomly losing spark on. I kind of thought it was doing that while it was running flooding too, so I was kind of wondering if it had multiple issues, and apparently it does. You know, something this old that's been sitting as long as it has. And the original coils and plug wires are not usable. They're in really rough shape, so I don't have an option but to go with new coils. So if it's the coils that are bad, I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, I'm going to pull the wiring apart for the 12 volt side and check that out now. Yeah, why I hate butt connectors. This one just popped right out. I'm going to solder some on both of them, and then I'm going to shrink tube them because they have to be insulated like this. I think I'm going to pop these off too. I'm going to change all 4 of them, solder them. Yeah, that may be the problem. These came with the coils, and I think they're garbage. All soldered and shrink wrapped. The other ones I was just able to just pull them off. This one fell off. This one was the tightest one on, but these 2 fell off, and that one kind of just a little jerk and it was off. So I think those factory coil connectors were garbage. I'm gonna put a little shrink wrap over the outside of these before I push them on, so they don't, you know, short to anything. So they're insulated. Like, that's why I put those other ones on. They were insulated. But these ones I soldered on, I'm going to insulate with some shrink wrap. Before I do that, I'm going to check the voltage at the coils key on and see what I got. Let's see, this is the power lead right here. I assume there's a resistor in here. The wiring harness or the wiring diagram shows there is one. Get that touched up there. So we got pretty good voltage there. That's voltage at each one of those. And this is battery voltage. So it's 1 volt down, which I guess is, you know, maybe what it is, I don't know, but it's more than what it was with the other connectors. It was like, I don't know, 10 something. So it's got another volt. So it's definitely a better connection. Let me put a little shrink wrap around these. I'm gonna wiggle these with the voltmeter on too. And again, I can't hold the camera and do that. Just want to check and see if I lose power while I'm wiggling things, so that's why I'm going to do that. So far everything's checking out good. I've been putting this wire on here, and I've been wiggling the wires up in the headlight around by the handlebars. Oops, I knocked out some of the lights here. And I worked the switch, wiggled it, everything, because that cuts the 12 volts to the coils. And I tried it on both leads, playing with the switch and wiggling wiring. Here, let me turn the key off. It doesn't need to be on still. I think everything's good in the wiring, so I'm hoping maybe those were the issue, were these connections. I don't know, we'll soon find out, won't we? There we go. That's the one from the points. That's the one to the coil, to the 12 volt side. Again, points, 12 volt side. So let me hook them back up and see if we have spark on all 4. Take it for another run on the road. Those adjusting screws really are at 1. Alright, let me take it out and see how it runs on the road. I think it's all good. The adjusting screw is like 1 turn the most, and that's factory spec. good. I had it out on Woodward. did put a few miles on it. All right, I'm gonna put it in the garage and call it good for right now. If it wasn't so numbing cold out there, I would have ridden it some more, but it runs pretty good when you get it out on the road. And man, when you get it up in the R's, this thing just really sinks you back. I mean, it really pulls nice. Runs good. It stalled a couple times, it stops. But I have the idle down pretty low. But these seem to be about their best, excuse me, one turn. And all the pipes are running within 5 degrees of one another, 5, 10 I think they're all pretty much all the same. They're all within a few degrees, about 5 degrees, 5 to 8 degrees. But when I first took it out, this cylinder was completely dead. And that's why it was blowing that moisture white steam out the pipe. This pipe is the outboard one, and there was water accumulating, and I thought, well, then I touched it and it was cold. That pipe, I mean. And then I got my thermometer. So I pulled the plug out, and this is what the plug looks like. And I had another new spark plug, and I put it in, and that took care of the mist. So I think these plugs just got fouled from being so loaded up from all that raw gas running through it. And I think I'm just going to order 4 new plugs. These are brand new, but I think they just got so crowded up from running rich. I'm just going to put 4 new plugs in it and be done with it. It seems to run pretty good. I'll see if I can get some video from the bike camera to edit into this video so you can hear it on the road. Yeah, people turn and look when they hear this coming down the road. But it's not as loud as what I thought it would be. And idling, it's actually, and if I keep it up in the gears, like going through the neighborhoods, I just, put it in like 3rd gear, and it just is idling along. It's not too bad, but when you crack the throttle and really get into it, it really barks, and it really gets up and goes. And we're very, very happy with the performance now. So tomorrow I'll take the top of the carburetors off, I think, and bend those tabs back, because it actually runs pretty darn good. I have no complaints out riding it on the road. Like I say, a couple times it stalled, it stops. It could be because it's so cold and damp out. It could be frosting the carburetors a little bit, but I think it'll be all good. We may have to do a little fine-tuning, adjusting here and there, but I think it's ready for cruising. I'm very happy with it. I think the oil seal on the shift shaft leaks, so I'll get a new oil seal for that I can change. Just pull this cover off and change that. So I think I'll get one of those ordered up. And anyway, I'll go in and edit you guys up a video. If you liked it, definitely hit that thumbs up icon. It certainly helps me out. If you like my channel, that 348 engine icon that powers my Bel Air will help you subscribe. And thank you for taking the time to watch my video again.